Welcome into another Musings from the Mind of tutorial where we're going to have more fun with modifiers, specifically the Boolean modifier and a little bit of the simple deform modifier. We can create this kind of topographical illusion where you have one image when you're looking at it from one perspective, you have text from another perspective. We can do the same thing with like letters or words. And so this is going to be in 3 parts, so you can stay for as much as you like to. First, I'll just show you simply how to use the Boolean modifier to do it with just one letter. Then we're going to show how to do it with words. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to show where we can use the simple deform modifier to make the image cleaner. And so with that, let's jump right in. File, New, General. And let's do Shift A. We're going to add a text, RX90, tab. I'm just going to use the letter A. I'm going to tab out of there. I'm going to scale 5. Enter. We're going to jump over here to the fonts. This is just a personal preference for me. Center, center. We're going to choose a fatter font because I think that just looks better. And then in geometry, we are going to just extrude this guy. That was probably way too much. 0.25 is right there. That gives us everything we need. So looking at it from the top, I'm going to do Shift D, Enter, RZ90 to turn it to where it's crisscrossing. We're going to hit 3. So perspective 1, this is going to be our first letter. 1 on the numpad, 3 on the numpad. We're going to hit Tab, and we'll just change this to Z because we're just going to do our typographical illusion A to Z. So right click, convert to a mesh. We're going to jump over here, add modifier, remesh, sharp. I just out of habit, I uncheck, remove disconnected. I'm going to hit 7, and I'm going to apply. I'm going to hit 1 to look at my A. I am going to add the same thing. Oops, I hadn't converted it to a mesh. Now I'm going to add a remesh modifier, sharp, remove disconnected, 7, enter. Then we're going to hit apply. And then I also want to, on object here with the A selected, apply all transforms, hit 3, select the Z, apply all transforms. And then on this Z, I am going to add a Boolean. I'm going to select intersect, and my object for intersect is going to be our first text object, which is the A. And give it just a second to do its calculations. And then I am going to hide the A. And if you look here, from perspective 1, we have an A. From perspective 2, we have a Z. Now then, this looks great in orthographic mode, but in a minute when we add a camera, perspective mode is going to make it potentially look a little wonky, and we'll need to address that. So let's, the other thing you want to be sure if you're going to do anything with this, you want to apply the Boolean modifier. And then once you do that, you can delete the original text and do what you will. So I'm going to delete here, and you see we've got that cool little letter there. So let's delete this guy. This also works for words. So again, from the front perspective, Shift A, we're going to add a text, RX90, and then I'm going to enter. I'm going to tab in here, and we'll just say A, B, C, D. Again, just a couple of things that are preferences for me. I am going to use this fatter font. I am going to set this to center and center, and scale 5, enter. And then let's go up here to our geometry, and let's extrude this guy. That should be enough. And we're going to go top view, Shift D, rotate Z90, enter. And then I'm going to go hit 3 to see my other set of letters, and we'll just do this E, F, G, H, tab. It looks like everything fits there. Everything fits there. So I really want these guys to overlap each other, so I'm going to add my, just make sure they overlap good. So I'm just going to add to my extrusion. And then I'm going to, again, like we did with the single letter, convert to mesh. Remesh, sharp, remove disconnected, and change that to 7. And apply. Go to 3, right click, mesh, remesh, sharp, remove disconnected, 7, enter, apply. And then just like we did before, we're going to apply the Boolean, select intersect. We're going to select the first text. And the bigger this gets with the more geometry, the more the computer's going to think. So I'm going to hide that first text for a minute. And if we go to perspective 1, we see A, B, C, D. Go to perspective 2, we see E, F, G, H. But if we turn it here, we see we've got kind of that cool effect. And then what we can do here is I'm going to go to 7 for top view. I am going to apply this modifier, which is going to take it just a second to do its calculations. Then I'm going to tab, hit A to select everything, P to separate by loose parts, and then I want to select diagonally these 4. I'm going to hit Control I to invert my selection, and I'm going to delete. Again, we go to 1, we see A, B, C, D. We go to 2, we see E, F, G, H. And then we've got this cool shape where we can now spin our camera through here. So then what we can do now is we can kind of just animate this. So I'm going to hit Shift A, and I'm going to add an empty cube. And then I'm going to Shift A, and I'm going to add a camera. I'm going to do Control Alt 0 to get the camera out here. And then what I want to do is I want to parent that camera to the empty. So I'm going to select the camera, then the empty, and then I'm going to hit Control P, keep offset. And then what I can do now is as I affect this empty, it will affect my object here. So what I want to show you here is we're going to rotate the empty. I'm sorry, not my object. It'll adjust my camera. Rotate on the Z, and then you see we can do we could animate this box turning, which would animate the camera. Which this is great. Again, if you see when you're in perspective mode here, everything looks good. But let me return this back to where it was. But if you'll see here, you can kind of see, because we're in perspective mode, you can kind of see a little bit of the other letters here, even though we're in. So there's 2 ways we can deal with this. We can select the camera, and we can go to camera settings, and we can change from perspective to orthographic. And then as we move the camera, rotate Z, you'll see that effect, except for when it's when it's straight on, it'll look cleaner as far as that depth. But if we don't want to do that, let me go back here. We can go back into perspective. What we can do here now is we can add Shift A. We're going to add a lattice, and we want to scale that lattice up to where it encompasses the totality of those letters. And then we're going to go to our lattice here, and we're going to do 10, 10, 10, 10, enter there, and then scale, I'm going to scale this down on the Z to where it's just right on like that. Maybe scale Z maybe a little bit, and then get Z, bring it down here. All right. Now then, what we can do is we now will go to our letters, and we are going to add a, oh, I'm sorry. Let me put these letters back together as a single object. And then on those letters, I want to go back to 0. And then I'm going to hide that lattice. And then what I want to do is I'm going to add a simple deform. We're going to change it to taper. And then let me see, make sure I am in. Okay. And then I am going to use the lattice. And I want to do it, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's actually what I wanted to do. And then so you see, as we play with this taper object, we can make it, even though it's in perspective mode, we can make it look like they're all smooth. And then as we would rotate on the Z, when we come around here, we would set that, we can animate that taper back. Let's see, we want to change that to, we then animate on the X. So we would actually need 2 of these guys. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get rid of this for just a second so we can get back to where we were. Let's get 0. And let me go in. Let me get my Z rotation back to 0. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to, on timeline 1, we're going to set a keyframe on rotation at Z0, and then we'll just come over here to say 150, and we will rotate Z90, enter. We're going to lock that rotation, and then what I want us to see, we'll set our end frame at 150. And then what we're going to see is, as it turns, while it's turning, we get this the cool dual effect. But if you'll look at both, the resting point of, let's see, so I'll set here a little bit more. I'm going to take this guy to 20, and we'll take this guy to 130. And then let's go back in. So while it's resting at this view, it's got a little bit of offset to it. And then when it's resting at this view, it's got a little bit of offset to it. So that's where we're going to use our simple deform to make these resting images look good. So here we go. We're going to jump here. We're going to go back to our letters. We want it to match when it's turning. So I'm going to add my first simple deform. I'm going to set it to Y. I'm going to set it to taper. I'm going to set it to lattice, and then what we're going to do is we're going to get this guy to right about here, and we'll lock a keyframe there. And then what we want to do is at 130, we're going to want that to be 0, so it's unaffected. And this is going to get us halfway there. So it looks like it's in orthographic mode, and then we get over here, it's not deformed, but we're not seeing these guys line up the way we want to. So we're going to go back to this 130. We are going to duplicate this, but what we're going to do is we're going to change it from Y, the second one from Y to X, And then we're going to see as we move this guy, we get it back into kind of an orthographic mode. We're going to put a keyframe there, and then we're going to go back here, and we're going to make sure that our keyframe is, our taper is 0 here. So now we get orthographic. We've got a nice perspective of the illusion, then orthographic again. So I hope this is something you have fun with. Like I did, I combined my logo and my, just the title of my channel together. You can put 2 logos together. Just make sure that you remesh and you use good typography. I hope this is some fun you can have with the Boolean modifier. Please hit like and subscribe. Until next time.